stop doing low value work in your public adjusting business and organize it, right? So we're not talking, all work is valuable work. I just want to say that right off the bat. And you'll see as we're going through. People have asked me in the past, what do you mean by, what is this webinar going to be? And I always have $1, $10, $100 in my head, right? That's a lot of what we're going to talk about today and what it means, 1, 10, and $100. Has anybody ever, well, I've heard it on cruises and nowhere else. We're not going on cruises anymore. That dollar song, dollar, dollar, dollar. Like I always remember it on the cruise ship and they're having parties around the pool. That dollar song sticks in my head, 1 cent, 5 cent, 10 cent dollar, that kind of thing. That sticks on my head when it comes to work. And honestly, although our business function here at ClaimWizard is not the same as your public adjusting function, your business, we've been going through these same things, right? ClaimWizard as a company is 7 years old, although we've been in business since the mid 90s. And my husband and I have been working together for 23 years. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary in quarantine. That was fun. So this is what we're going to talk about today. I don't want to say light on content. It's going to be a lot of discussion. It's not me killing you with slides. This is meant to be a discussion and a thought-provoking exercise, which we are going through in our team for ClaimWizard on the executive level, and then it kind of goes down to our team members, and you'll see where we're going with that in a second. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about is $1 work, $10 work, and $100 work. And I'm not talking about salaries. I'm talking about the weight of importance. Because if someone came up to you and said, oh, this thing is a dollar. Oh, no problem. Let me get a bill out of my wallet, grab a couple quarters, but not a problem. $10, all right, yeah, I kind of want it. If it's $100, it really needs to have some significance to get rid of that $100 bill out of your wallet. So I kind of use the money analogy as a weighting process. Weight as in like volume, heaviness kind of thing. Then we're going to talk, not a lot of slides because we're going to talk about this quite a bit, is how to assess your team's strengths to the best benefit of your business. If you're a team of one, I still want you to go through these exercises. On a couple times during this webinar, I will ask you, you're going to get these slides when we're done because I have your email and all I do with it after that is send you the slides. That's kind of the thing. And then this video winds up on YouTube afterwards. But if you want to, there's going to be certain points in this webinar that I'm going to ask you to screen cap or write down quickly what's up on the screen, because I may want you to work with it as we're going through it, but it's completely up to you. You can do it in your brain or whatever. So if you are a solo practitioner, you are doing everything. You are the, chief bottle washer and cook kind of thing, scrubbing toilets, making money, everything in between. You're still going to want to look at this because there are still $1 value work for you. There is still $10 value work. Your work is divided up into values, your tasks, and teamwork. We're going to talk about that as well. And then I want to talk a little bit about how you fit this into your lifestyle. And I'm not going to get all woo-woo crazy on you, maybe just like 18%. But I've been seeing a really big, this is where Lynette decides she wants to put the video on. I've been seeing a really big thing happening with our own company, with myself, with clients that call us. And they're like, we're working from home. We feel like we need to work all the time. Like we can be like your industry, public adjusting is recession proof. COVID and all this, recession and stuff. The circumstances are different because in a recession, you could still go shake someone's hand kind of thing. But you see what I'm saying? Like the worse it is out there, the better it can be for you guys. But I see people in panic mode because you never know, like when cat season comes through, you never know if how long the going's going to be good. So you feel like you have to do as much as you can and you will burn yourself out. Was there myself and this Saturday. And, I want to talk about that a bit too. So when you look at this, I want you to think about your own work-life balance being the $1,000 almost kind of thing. Okay, we're good. We're good. So, as per usual, this is me. You've seen what I look like. This is what I look like some other time. I am one of the co-founders of ClaimWizard. I've been working full time with ClaimWizard for 7 years. I think full time. Every once in a while, I would duck out because somebody would bribe me with a job, and that looked cool. And what I really realized is there's nothing better than being your own boss. I'm pretty unemployable at this time. I am a certified business coach. I choose to only focus on first party claim industry and public adjusting companies with my certification. And a lot of the certifications, a lot of the methodologies that I use are talked about, or some of them are talked about in this. This is where I got a lot of the information for the webinars that I do. I've published books. I've been a professional speaker back in the days when you can actually get on planes and go places. I have been working with PAs since 1996, but again, full time for really the last 7 years. I'm not a public adjuster. That's a conflict of interest, an ethical conflict of interest for all of us. We are here to support you, period, end of discussion. Okay. Webinars aren't ClaimWizard software platform related. Rising tide raises all ships. I said it because somebody actually told me when I say it in the webinar, like how long in the webinar it takes me to say that. Um, by us wanting to help educate you and by gathering really great information, that is going to help you become a better public adjusting / company, and it helps us and the entire industry. So that's what we're here for. If you need help on our platform specifically, academy.claimwizard.com and help.claimwizard.com. So that goes there. You do not have to be a ClaimWizard client to get any benefit from these webinars. You probably should be a public adjuster or in the first parties industry. If you are a restaurant owner, I am going to speak Greek for the next 45 minutes. Okay. So I want to talk about the idea of $1, $10, and $100 work. And I was walking through this, and my almost 13-year-old comes in and he's like, where I need the $100 work, like, and I'm like, no, just because you do a specific task doesn't mean you can bill $100. Like, it's not worth that. It's the weight of how much everything is for, your importance and your value on it. Okay. So there's 3 things, and I want you to write them down or stick them in your head or put them on a Post-it note or do something so you remember this when you're working. We're going to be talking about tasks. So we're divvying out your tasks. When you get something to do, when a task is presented to you, you have 3 options. You can do it. You can decrease the amount of that task, reduce its scope, sort of thing, or you can delegate it out to someone else. I love alliteration. I am a dyed-in-the-wool fan of Mike Michalowicz, who has written a ton of books. I am also certified through him as an advisor. A lot of what we're going to talk about here, I've rephrased some of it just to be specific to the first party public adjusting industry. But this particular webinar revolves in part around a book that he has called Clockwork, and I'll give you information on that. It's basically how to work yourself out of your own business. But there are phenomenal ideas in here, and they don't all necessarily match 100% to the public adjusting industry. That's where my expertise comes in, where I've kind of matched a lot of this stuff, taken what he's done, tweaked it for our industry, and gone that way. It's also stuff I've been practicing for decades, to be quite honest. So I'm kind of on the wavelength with him. Okay, this is scary. Does everybody see this slide? Does this look scary? Or does this look like your normal week? Let me know in the chat. Does this look like your normal week? So in the center, we have what Mike would call your QBR, your queen bee role. This is the core of what your business revolves around. If you are a doctor, your patient care, actually serving a patient, diagnosing and treating, whatever, that is your core that is what you do, right, as a doctor. Maybe you're a doctor that works in a doctor's office. So you're going to have nurses and front desk staff and technicians and all of these other things, and they support that core value of providing medical care to patients, right? Your QBR, your queen bee role, and it's not a person. I always call myself a queen bee in my house, but it's a task. It's the thing. It's the thing that you sell, right? Is everybody with me? Just say yes and whatever in the chat. So this way I know you're following along. All right. Thank you. So take a look at these things on the screen. Screen cap this if you can. This is a back of the envelope, halfway educated guess on what your week might look like as a public Brent says, yes, that's my schedule. As a public adjusting company, right? The company, all of these post-it notes feed into successfully adjusting and settling claims. That is at the core what every public adjusting company must do. You all have your secret sauce, you all have your flares, you all have your niches, you all have your personalized expertise. At the core, this is what you have to do to be a successful business, adjust and settle claims. Doctors' offices don't do this, but also you not treating and diagnosing patients, right? This is your core. So off of this, I want to look at all these things, and some of them are generalized because there's a lot that goes in that bucket. And this is, like I said, the back of the envelope of how long it may take you out of a week to do these things. How much of your time is being eaten up by this? I dare you to do the math because I promise you it doesn't equal 40 hours. It's way more than that because there are multiple people involved. But if you are a business of one or few, you don't work 40 hours a week, people. This is just not happening. Um, so running checks, right? So I actually let me start in the very top right hand quadrant, right? Find new business and get contracts signed. How many times? So all of these have pieces that can be chopped down for efficiency. Finding new business. There's a lot that phrase just entails like an elephant, right? And getting the contract signed. So you've got how many times are you going out and meeting with clients? The last webinar I did that's up on YouTube actually talks about that. How can you get your clients to, and it's pre-sales emails. There's the too long didn't read part. Pre-sales emails, because there's a 3-step process to getting a client to sign the very first time you meet with them in person, especially now with COVID is very important. You don't want to keep going back to their house. Oh, they didn't have their spouse there who's a legal policy holder and you need to talk to them. So now you have to come back a second time. That webinar goes over everything. And people have already given me feedback in literally 1 week saying they've changed it. They've sent pre-sales emails and it's already shredding hours off of their week and getting contracts signed sooner. Please go check it out. Finding business and getting contracts signed. How much time do you spend on the phone with a prospect? How much time do you spend emailing them? How much time do you spend running to their property and meeting with them? Or like that's the 10 hours, right? So maybe you have a salesperson and that's all they do. And we're going to talk about that. Next is about 10 hours a week updating claim documentation, leaving notes, running estimates and doing those reports, that kind of thing. All of the updates, the day-to-days, the diary entries, all that. 10 hours, people tell me it's a lot more. HR and staff, meetings, and you got to hire someone or you have to, work with someone to train them up on something, all of the regular stuff if you have staff. If you don't have staff and you're a person of one, you get a big old X on that part. It's great. Just X it off now. Feels real good. Next is about 10 hours a week. And like I said, these are guesstimates just from a couple people. I said, hey, how much time does it take you to do these things, right? So just those particular people, maybe more or less for you. Creating claim paperwork and documentation. So that's different than updating, right? So now you've got to sit and work on actually doing your estimate, run and, create a proof of loss, do letters of representation, send out invoices, those sorts of things. 10 hours a week doing that. Returning phone calls and email, those are both in there. 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day returning phone calls. People tell me they're on the phone for way more than 2 hours a day. We've got to get that to stop. I know it's important, but there are better ways to serve that task that will better serve your queen bee role of successfully adjusting and settling claims. All of these things are necessary. If you notice, we're going to talk about where's the $1 work? Where's the stuff I can get rid of, right? Maybe nothing can being gotten rid of, but you can prioritize and you can delegate to someone else, right? And meeting with carriers. You got to meet with the adjusters, right? This is the core of what a public adjuster does. Dealing with clients. How many times have you played phone tag? And I'm expecting numbers with lots of commas in it, right? How many times have you played phone tag with a client? They call you, you're at a property, you can't answer the phone. You return their phone call, they're at the grocery store, back and forth and back and forth. And all they want to know is, hey, what's your email address? So I need to send you something. Like, what? Like, yeah, it's crazy. Lots of back and forth for very little payoff information. Dealing with clients, vital to your business, but there are ways that it can be done better. Dealing with vendors is the same thing. Um, are there any roofers on this call? Because I'm going to say something, and even the roofers will agree with me. Everybody wants to bang their head on a table when it comes to roofers. They're really good at what they do, but man, the paperwork and the invoices, they're like, wow, I got to deal with the roofers again. They're kind of funny. The dry out and resto guys, they're next. Like, you all have the vendors that you just hate dealing with because you're like, send me an invoice, and they send it, it's the wrong one, or for the wrong claim, or it's just back and forth. Lots of wasted time. Email. I put email as 15 hours. If you notice, the spokes coming off of this are all different lengths. Like the closer they are to the center, the less time they take. Email should be off your screen someplace, right? Is email or phone? I'm curious. So type email or phone. Which one do you think is the biggest time suck in your week that can be approved upon, that can be kind of broken back down? I know which one is mine. Marketing, setting appointments, technical tasks, those sorts of things can be dealt with other people, but they must be dealt with in a company. And then you may be the type of company, public adjuster, that has to deal with attorneys. So I popped in 1 hour for them because attorneys' time is very expensive. Pardon me. They usually don't want to talk to you as much as they have to talk to you. Okay. Everybody got that? Now, this is what I want you to think about. If you've done the screen cap, or you're thinking and you're jotting down the big bucket items that all feed that center, that queen bee role of what your company exists to do, doing the work. So the work that you do that is unique to you and your role and your experience, that's the $100 work, right? It's not, you're not getting paid for it, right? Where this all started, I'll be honest, and where I started thinking about this was, we had a ClaimWizard cruise in January, which feels like a decade ago. And we did a lot of business building exercises on here. And somebody said, and they were the owner of the company and one of like 5 adjusters, but they were the adjuster that did like all the large loss. Like they were the big guns that got brought in for the whale clients kind of thing. And he's like, well, I spend a lot of time generating documents. He has a whole staff. He has 4 other adjusters. He's got two or three people in the office. I said, why are you creating your proof of loss? Well, only I know how to do it. I said, nobody in your office can read the numbers off your report and, A, B, C, and D and put it in there. No, I have to do it. And and I said, can you do this? She's like, yeah, click a button. I generate it. He gives it to me. Half the time I give him the one I did and he doesn't even know that, like, it was ridiculous. I'm like, why are you wasting your $100 time with $10 or $1 work? Not to say generating a proof of loss is only worth $1 or only worth $10, or someone else that it is their responsibility is only worth $1. That's $100 work for them. Do what meets what you have to do and give the other stuff to somebody else. Decrease. So you're going to see it on the email, you're going to see it on the phone calls. If you can decrease the amount of time to do something, automation, client portals, the clients are calling you all the time. Give them a ClaimWizard portal. They can log in and see whatever they want, whenever they want. Like I just talked to a client today and helped them set it up. That's what you need. Like get some of that stuff off your plate. You are always going to have emails. I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news. You are always going to have phone calls. Again, ditto. But you don't have to get sucked down in them. I know a lot of people tell me, well, client service, and my company's the same. Talk to people on the phone, get great rapport. That's great. But you know what? Sometimes there's a lot of back and forth that doesn't need to be there. And if you put tight systems in, which we've covered it on tons of webinars before, your time becomes decreased. If you put the work in up front load it, your entire life, your entire business will go more smoothly because of it. So I want you to think about, and we're going to show you, because I've broken it down by role, where you can decrease things. And the third thing is delegate. And I'm not saying delete, because if you Mike's book, oh, I don't have it out here, is basically deleting something, right? If it's an unimportant task, we're going to get it off your plate and off everybody else's plate. Well, I'm of the mindset that you guys are hella hard workers. You really are. I see what you do every single day. There is not a minute of wasted effort in what you do. I have worked with a lot of industries in my life. And I'll say, especially like big corporate and stuff, there's a lot of waste, a lot of slack, a lot of, I won't say lazy, but just like everything is death by committee. You guys are small businesses and you hustle. Everything has momentum, everything has a purpose to it of what you do. I don't think there's anything that you do that can be deleted, that can be cut. I do think it can be delegated out. I do think you could decrease how much time you're going to do on it, but I don't think that you have frivolous work that you're giving your like busy work. There is no such thing as busy work in public adjusting. Amen. Hallelujah to that. So these are the three things I want you to think about. Do is $100, decrease is $10, and delegate is $1. Got it? Got it. This is a hot mess. Look at this. Do, decrease, delegate. Think about this. If you are an owner, I know I've probably not, I could count on one and a half hands how many public adjusting companies I know that are run and owned by someone that does not actively adjust. A lot of them are, some of them I have as clients, as coaching clients, right? And they're looking to what I call one foot on the golf course. They're like, all right, I want to semi retire. It's my business. I only want to be involved with the big whale clients, or if something goes totally south and has to go to, a law firm or something. But on a day to day, I want the business to operate itself, that kind of thing. There overwhelming majority of public adjusting companies, that owner is actively adjusting. So you're wearing two hats. So you're owner operator in the world of finance or franchises. Here I'm talking about your owner hat, right? Not actively adjusting claims or not on a day to day kind of thing. So if you look at these same things that we covered, you're the owner of the company. I don't want you wasting 2 hours a week running checks. Well, I have to. Well, why? You don't have anybody that can put the money in an envelope and run it to the bank or go to the client and get it signed or check swaps, or you do. If you don't have anyone that you trust in your company, well, assuming you have, staff and stuff, um, why? Do you not have the right person in that role? And we're going to talk about how to kind of rework people's roles based on their qualifications and personality and stuff like that. That's, do you have someone trustworthy? Do you do it yourself? Honestly, running checks to the bank probably isn't the worst thing in the world, but staff can do that. Finding new business and getting contracts signed. If it's your claim, sure, go get it signed. Go work the claim. You're going to have networks. You're going to have your, environment around you where you're going to get claims in, but you should not be the one pulling all of the claims into the company if you have multiple people. Same things with updating claim documentation. As the owner, you're not sitting there nights and weekends typing notes into claim files for your adjusters. It's just not going to happen. Now, as the owner of the company, you are dealing with HR stuff and staff stuff, but I guarantee you can cut some of that time out, especially now with COVID and people working from home, Zoom, Google, Facebook, I don't even know the video things. It all works great. But you can reduce time with that. Let somebody else be in charge. Give yourself, out of 3 people in the office, make one of them a manager. Creating claim paperwork and documents, not you. Returning phone calls on a day-to-day basis, not you, somebody else. Meeting with carriers, sometimes. Sometimes when things aren't moving along how you need to, the company's got to bring in the big guns and get you in there and get stuff smacked around a bit so it gets moving. That's one of your core roles that you always have to have. Next, in some capacity, you're going to have to be dealing with clients. Maybe not all clients. Maybe if they, my one client that I'm working with, who's the one foot on the golf course, or he actually plays tennis, so one foot on the tennis court, I suppose. Is if a really big client needs to be wined and dined a little bit, there's that. But if he's got a client that starts going south and starts getting, quite frankly, pissy, or, hey, I'm going to spread it all over Facebook because of some misunderstanding, they didn't read the contract, they don't understand they owe you 20% or whatever. you're going to have to step in for relationship stake. That's always going to happen. But on a day to day, you're not answering the phone every day. I don't think so. And if you are, no, we have a webinar for that too. Dealing with vendors sometimes, the same as the carriers. Email, cut it down, give it to somebody else. Have a public email address, which I had a public adjusting client decades ago who he had the email address that was on the website and the email address that the carrier sent stuff to and all that business. And his admin took 100% of it. It never went to him. If he really needed it, she forwarded it to his private email address, which I think was just his initials, not his name or whatever. And he dealt with it then. But there's a filter there you have to be able to deal with. Marketing, setting appointments, technical IT tasks. In no way, shape, or form should an owner of a company be putting antivirus on a computer. There's somebody else for it. You hire outside of it. You elevate someone else in your company. Owners of the companies are probably always going to be dealing with the attorneys just because that's the nature of the business, right? Okay, so that was for executive owners. Next is adjusters. And I'm just going to be talking about the things that you should be doing because there's a lot of X's of things you shouldn't be doing, right? Adjusters in a good number of companies are responsible for bringing in their own claims. So you should be spending 10 hours a week, 2 hours a day, if you break it down, 2 hours a day in some capacity working on closing new clients and getting those contracts signed. If that is your job, that is your job. So that green check mark for an adjuster means that is your $100 work. I'm not saying you're getting paid $100. We've already gone over that. That is your $100 work right there. Updating claim documentation. You get in your car when you're done with an appointment, you open up your note-taking app, ClaimWizard, press voice to text, leave a note on the claim, save, start your car, go away. You are responsible for updating information on the claim. It is a huge time waste for you to document a bunch of stuff, then turn around, take those scribble notes, give them to someone in the office and have him or her translate it into, I'll say ClaimWizard, or whatever other system you're using to track your claims. Total waste of time. Or for you to sit and write it down and then to get back on a Friday and then have to take your notes from the entire week and do it. Treat it like you're paying someone $100 to do this work for you. Are you going to divide it up over 4 or 5 hours and pay $400 or $500? No. You're going to get it all done as soon as you need to deal with it. Save it, get on with your day. Treat it as a high level, important, expensive task because it is imperative to that claim that it be documented correctly. Meeting with carriers. Yep. That's all you, right? Public adjusters meet with carrier adjusters. That is how the industry works. You need a license to do that. And if you look at some of these things, soliciting, let's just call it soliciting new business, you need a license in every state that I am aware of that you need a public adjusting license. You need a license to solicit. You got to do that. Updating claim information, that's because you are the subject matter expert. Meeting with carriers, nobody else can meet with a carrier and negotiate except for a licensed public adjuster. That's your $100 work. Everything else is X'd. Emails, everybody, my mom's retired. She still deals with emails. She didn't have a job. Everybody deals with emails. Cut down what you can. Dealing with vendors, maybe as a public adjuster, it shouldn't be up to you to go and vet a bunch of, vendors and meet with them and sit all that time. No. Push it off, get it to somebody else. That's your $10 work. You're still going to have to deal with it, but you don't need to take the whole onus, the heaviness of it all. Make sense? Hopefully it does. Then our last, who's getting all these X's is what we want to know. Who's doing all this $1 work? Well, it's not $1 work to everyone. For example, I live in the IT technical. Well, I'm not $1 work. I'm $100 work. That's what I tell everybody in my family. So if you are office staff, a claims processor, appointment setter, mortgage processor, anybody like that, or your support team, even if you are a business of one, chances are your business relies on somebody or some company to help you with marketing and advertising, getting business cards made up, logos, maybe you're doing Facebook ads, something. And technical tasks, hey, could be Geek Squad, could be anyone, but there comes a point where you're probably not going to be able to do everything yourself, right? So those types of tasks are going to fall on someone. So just because it says office and support team here doesn't necessarily mean it's within your own company. You could farm a lot of this stuff out. Running checks, mortgage processor, go right ahead. That person should be in charge of getting checks, going to clients. Maybe they have their notary, whatever you need, make it happen. If you're running proof of losses over to clients or you need things like that, whoever you're doing in the office, make them a notary, spend the $100 or whatever it costs to do it. I've I sat with a client and they're like, "Well, we have this stack of paperwork." And I said, "What is this?" And they said, "We go over to the notary once a week and she does all of this work for us. She notarizes it." And I said, Well, can't this somebody in the office do it? Get their notary and just she's the one that's running out to the clients. Why not?" And they looked at me and blinking like, "We can do that." I'm like, "You can do whatever you want." Saves a ton of time. Not just time running out to clients, but the time of that's a week that paperwork is sitting there. A week we have until that's done. A week that you're delaying cash flow. It could be a big thing. So running checks, yes, but there's a lot more to it than that. Office staff, it's not their job to get new business. There's not their job to get the contract signed, but it is their job to help update claim information. Somebody calls, etc. It is their job to deal with office staff and other, personnel. It is their job to create paperwork and documentation. It is their job to return phone calls. It is their job to deal with clients, all of these things. So you can see where this is. No office staff is meeting with the attorney. That's off. That's not a thing that they do. So this should hopefully make sense depending on what your particular role is. When we first started these webinars, uh, I don't know, I'm kind of naive, I guess. I was like, oh, well, business owners are going to, everybody watches these webinars. I have people that aren't even public adjusters yet that are looking to get into the industry. And then their carrier side, they're a little nervous now because you guys do so much, right? So, one thing that I wanted to talk about is your $1 work is somebody else's $100 work. So, like your trash is someone else's treasure kind of thing. And this is something that I struggled with for a long time as I was developing this content. And for me, these things, everything you ever see me talk about on a webinar is literally in my head 24/7. But putting it together and packaging it and making it succinct for you, that's the work for me, right? But I love doing this. This is my zone of genius kind of thing. I struggled with, well, if I say generating paperwork is $1 work and that means it's not valuable and it's, poo poo and just like give to some lowly person and just push it off to them. That's not what I'm saying. Because if you're the intake specialist, because I have people, we've kind of given their people that title instead of everybody in the office doing everything, that's a disaster. Make people specialize. And we're going to talk about how to get them into specialized roles. So your intake person may be really good with talking to a client, making sure they can get the policy, the pictures, like all of that initial intake, right? So they're intake specialist. They have a good rapport, they have a nice personality on the phone, that sort of thing. That work is not $1 work. It's $1 work to you if you're an adjuster because that's not worth your time. But that intake specialist, I'll just say she for the sake of the conversation, she is a baller. That is her core job. That is her $100 work. So don't ever look at those diagrams that I made and said, well, this is the most important thing in the company and this is the least important thing in the company. They are all feeding your queen bee role, all of them. Dealing with clients, dealing with emails over and over, all part of your business. It has to happen. All of it is valuable, but it's just different values to different people. Okay, we got that? Got it. All right. I want to talk about simple. There's not really too many slides here, right? Strengths that best benefit your business. So I want to talk about how people are best suited to roles, right? Um, so this comes from Mike Michalowicz's book Clockwork. I've taken some of his stuff and rephrased it and stuff, but I'll just say the general premise is there. There's something very odd about his books because Literally, it's everything I've ever done in my professional business life, but he's much more succinct and he's an author and he wrote it up, which gives me a much stronger framework and platform to work from. But I know Mike personally and I jive with a lot of his information. So, what I'd like you to do is think about this benefits matrix. Get a piece of paper, write these bullet points at the top as the header, and then you're going to write stuff underneath it, right? So, what is the job or the task that we're talking about? So, one of the jobs might be um, going through and answering the phone or answering information seeking emails. Like somebody says, "Hey, I have some damage in my house. What do I do? Like maybe can you help me?" Like those not phishing like bad phishing emails, but like they're like reaching out to you and figuring out what can go on. So that's a task, right? We'll just say answering the phone. Well, what kind of trait have to should you excel in? You should not be a grumpy old person answering the phone. Hey, what do you want? Like you have to have a great phone personality. You have to speak clearly so people can understand you. I will forever have a New Jersey accent and speak quickly. People in Alabama don't like that. I talk to them on the phone. They're like, you need to slow down. I'm like, I know. So you have to match a personality trait with that. Skills, right? So if you're talking about client intaking, if you're just doing data entry, like obviously they should type well, they should read well, they should have good handwriting, they should be able to just kind of like break through information quickly when they're talking to someone, be able to like just, cut to the core kind of thing. And then I add because, and I've added these to your Excel trait that the book does not cover, that there is a legal connotation in what you're doing. Like I talked about before, only a licensed public adjuster can talk and negotiate with a carrier adjuster. But here's the catch. So some of this we're going to learn things different ways, right? So I've had people call me and they say the carrier is calling my girls in the office just trying to push them just to mention money, not just money, but like exact amounts and stuff. And that's where they snag you for not being a published licensed adjuster. If you're going to talk money with a carrier adjuster, you have to be licensed. So some of these tasks that need to be done absolutely require a public adjusting license. But you know what? You don't need a public adjusting license to write an estimate. You don't need a public adjusting license to put together a proof of loss. Yes, it has to be your numbers, but to actually physically put together the document, no. $10, $1 work, $100 work. Think about that. Then I want you to think about the importance of it: high, medium, low. Legal deadlines, always high. Low, returning phone calls, returning emails. I'll be honest, if you return an email now or in 5 minutes, it's probably not the end of the world. It's low, like you can batch that and put that together, which we'll talk about. Someone calls you and you pick up the phone, like you're kind of on the hook. You have no choice but to deal with them right away, right? But if you're talking about returning phone calls or returning emails, that is more of a low priority just because you can schedule that a little bit around your own time, if you get that. Now, when you think about the current person serving that role, and then what I've seen is, because I kind of work this through with friends. Sometimes I use friends that own businesses that aren't in this industry, and I use them as guinea pigs, and I kind of walk them through and coach them on some of this stuff just to see what the results are. But so I say, do this for all the tasks and don't put the best person down, because when you write this down and they pass it around their team, they literally started picking pieces of paper saying, well, I want to do this and I want to do this and I do this now, but I'd rather give it away and take these other things. Things have a way of shaking itself down. So one of the examples that I want to give is, I have a client who's a public adjusting company, and he is, I always want to say bulldog, but I know there's bulldog public adjusters out there. He is a shark. Let's just say that. And he knows he's a shark. He is ex New Jersey, F bombs all over the place. Like he is a gruff guy, right? He likes clients that are like him. He likes clients that are like, let's go after the carriers or screw in my client. We're gonna, like he's real like in there. And because I always say there's two kinds of public adjusters. There's him, and then there's ones that want to come in and like, listen, we're all just trying to do a job. Let's just look at the facts. Let's get the best we can. Let's make an agreement. Let's move on. There's two factions, right? So he is really like tough and like ornery like this. And he's like, I'm gonna be up at 3 o'clock in the morning calling them if they don't answer, right? Like he's a hard ass. He hires a girl to answer the phone and deal with vendors. And she's the most sweet, soft spoken person I have ever spoken to. When I talk to her on the phone with my headphones, I have to crank I had to crank my like volume up because I could barely hear this sweet girl. I'm like, she must be getting chewed up three ways to Sunday, like talking to these like really like ornery kind of vendors and stuff. And she didn't work out. She wound up being better doing something else. I'm not sure if she actually works for the company anymore. So what he wound up doing is he hired a woman that used to be Marine. She's a tough cookie. I like her a lot. And vendors would get on the phone and be dropping curses and like, I'm not going to pay that. And that, da, da, da. She'd get right back at him. And that's what he needed because he needed that type of personality to match the, the personality of his work and his company kind of thing. So think about the current person serving a role and what is best required for that role and if you could match that kind of thing. So that's what I want to say on that. Okay. So I say think about this. I gave you the example of that, but also think about this in the example of doing an s actually physically adjusting a claim, right? Going in, looking at estimates, negotiating with, carriers. That is a specific job. The personality trait is definitely has a legal connotation to it because you have to have a license. The important is high because that is the pinnacle of what you're doing. Who's doing it and who's best serving it. I've seen companies actually switch their people around. They have two adjusters. One hates actually adjusting, or two licensed public adjusters. One actually hated adjusting claims, and one loved it and didn't want to talk to people. So the guy that didn't really like adjusting claims, he went out there and he sold like he was selling for everybody, right? He just brought in business like mad because he used to hesitate and put the brakes on the fact of selling business because he didn't want to actually adjust the business that he sold. He just wanted to sell it, throw it over the wall, and be done with it. Way better when the guy that just wants to go in, adjust, and go away, like he didn't have to deal with people. He didn't have to he didn't have to do the sales pitch. They were so much happier because they looked at it and they said, well, isn't this bad? Now, in theory, we're only going to have one public adjuster when now we have two. But now they're each working in their zone of excellence, their zone of genius, because it matches their personality traits and matches legally what they can both do, right? So just because it's the current person doesn't mean it's the best person. Hallelujah, someday I'll get myself off our own help desk. Okay, so that's the matrix I want you to go through. Each job and task, you can go back to those first ones on the slide with the little post-it notes and pick all those out and see who the best person is. Now, this is a little woo-woo. I will promise you that. I'm going to talk a little bit about work. Your workload should not be more important than your lifestyle. And we're going to work on that. You should be doing $100 work. Your $10 work is because you need to, not because you have to, right? So we're going to talk about this. So there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So what I found, and I've been, I get on phones with people, prospects. I don't even care if they're clients of ours. If they call and want to chat with me about this, I'm going to talk to them. Um, I've been seeing a lot of people tell me, especially with COVID, because of that stress of like either it's the going is tough because of whatever, just proximity and people and stuff, or the going is really, really good. And I don't want to ever slow down because I'm afraid it'll never happen again. They live their life after all of that work is done. You could fill your day, you could fill your week, you could fill your June, biggest decade in 2020, with $1 work. You need to get rid of the $1 work and do not replace it with other $1 or $10 or even $100 work. You don't do your job to live your life so you can get to your life. Like, you got to balance this out. Your work is never finished. I will say, one thing that I found has been really helpful is to work in batches and to schedule your days and time. So the example that I'll give you for this, and I know people come at me, not they don't always come at me in the chat, but they'll come at me after and they'll say, "Well, you just don't understand my business." I have not been in your shoes, but I have worked with public adjusters for 23 years. I've worked alongside of them. I've worked in their office. I've driven with them to go dig through fires. I've sat in a corner, so to speak, when I hear them negotiating with vendor or carriers. I've seen a lot of what goes on, right? So, what I will say is schedule your work in batches. There are always emergencies that come up. If you get an email or phone call from a prospective client or something, or even a new client, a pipe burst, what do I do? Okay, turn off the water. I'll help you find a dry out company. Let's get a claim started. Whatever. I know there are always exceptions to this rule. That is one of the facts in stone about public adjusting is there are always exceptions. Day to day, when your work is done for the day, shut it off. Go on. That it's still going to be there come Monday, as long as you're not missing deadlines and stuff like that, you should be good. I want you to batch and schedule things. For example, I use myself as an example a lot because it's what I know best, right? Block out your time. Time blocking. It's on the floor now. Well, I use digital calendars, but for myself and my own personal work ethic and my work, I use a block schedule. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I have my calendar set. Well, I will accept training meetings, demonstration meetings, client calls, all that kind of stuff. And it's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. my time, Central. That's when you're getting me. If you call me and say, Lynette, that is totally, and please don't. This is such an exception. I mean, it happens like twice a year. I absolutely, my own schedule is filled, then I can't meet with you. Well, then I'm going to meet with you after hours on our Tuesday or Thursday or that sort of thing. My time for clients is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Emails, help desk, that's all the time for me, which is the next thing I'm working on personally. Tuesdays and Thursdays are no phone for Lynette, unless I'm covering for Destiny when she's on lunch or something. And it's my heads down work. Maybe you say you're going to be on the road Monday, Tuesday, and Friday, or maybe on a Saturday if clients can, if you do Saturday appointments or Sunday appointments with clients. You say, these are my 3 days where I'm going to be able to go out and meet with clients, meet with carriers, do what I got to do. The other days, I'm in the office, I'm sitting at Starbucks, I'm going wherever, and I am absolutely working on my estimates, my paperwork, going through and trying to pick an umpire, whatever the things are you have to do. Even when you're doing, if you're office work, the phone's always ringing, the whatevers. Every Monday morning, you're going to come in and you're going to run off all of your LORs for the week. You're going to come in, whatever. And, every Friday, you're going to run a payroll or, a commissions payment statement. I have it for the last day of every single month, where the last, or I should say on the 30th, just because my calendar wouldn't do what I wanted it. So it's the 30th. So the 30th of every single month, I have from 9 till 10 o'clock in the morning, because I never know what day of the month it's going to fall on, that I do when I have trials for ClaimWizard, that I follow up with them. Like, put stuff in your calendar on a block schedule. Like, I'm going to sit down and concentrate on this. You're going to bang it out, bang it out, bang it out, go on with something else. Time blocking your schedule will help you get some of that time balance, that lifetime balance out. My email dings on my phone constantly for work, personal, weekends. My phone does not know it's July 4th coming up. It's still going to tell me you got to work. I think it's very important to kind of put those boundaries in there. What I also want to say is, we're not so bad. Big pregnant pause, right? So I'm never throwing Dave under the bus, my business partner and husband. But in the beginning of us, when 9 years ago, before we became ClaimWizard, when we were building this platform, he had no boundary between sitting at the dinner table and talking about work, or literally coming in and waking me up and talking about work. I'm like, listen, we got to stop it. You have to have that boundary with your employees, and you have to respect their boundary. Again, my dear friend who's a crazy shark with public adjusting, he's like, I will call them at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't care. He has adjusters that work for them. And he's like, you know what? If I call them 3 o'clock in the morning, they better answer me. only the people that are crazy like him can actually work for him because he has set the boundaries saying there are no boundaries and you either have to abide or you don't. But you know what? Don't call your assistant 7 o'clock on a Thursday at night and say, hey, what's the thing? No, just send an email. There's programs out there that will actually defer your email and not send till 9 o'clock the next morning. Give yourself space. It's really important right now. And I will say one of the things that we're actually working on here, because I'm not sure about you, but we're all working from home now. I went to my office today and I was like, I love it here. This is great. I'm at home now. Is make a physical separation between work and home. So even if you have one laptop and you're watching YouTube videos and reading Reddit and Facebook, and then it's work, like pick it up, move it to a different place. Um, a lot of the work I've done with small businesses has been about lifestyle balance, and they don't even realize it, but it really is. That's why I kind of wanted to add this in here. You can look at all, people will do their $100 work during the day, and at night they feel like they have to cram in $50 worth of single dollar work. Don't make it work in your time blocks and leave your rest of your time for you. But I find that physically having a different place for work will prohibit you from working all of the time. Um, we, well, not me. The rest of my team has worked the normal times that they normally work for June, and we had a banging month, right? We had a great month. Um, had separated myself a little bit. I would say, okay, on Saturdays and Sundays, I'm absolutely not doing any work. I will permit myself to work later during the week and after my kids are in bed, or whatever, even though they're older. Saturday and Sunday is a hard no for Lynette, unless something is literally on fire. I suggest you do it yourself. It's a good brain break since we're literally staring at the same walls all of the time. Okay, let's see. I wanted to give you some more resources. When you get these slides, they will be clickable, so you're going to see them all there. Hi, Matthew. So first of all, Clockwork. I love Mike's book. Get this book. There are links if you click on these, with the type of medium you want it in, you're going to get it. Mike's book, Clockwork, is the book that I'm actively working through. He did Profit First. I love it. He did Fix This Next, which is about identifying and highlighting and solving inefficiencies in your business, which is where I'm certified. But Clockwork is amazing, and we're actually working through this ourselves in ClaimWizard for the executives and owners. How to design your business so it runs itself. You have my so Matthew, do you like Clockwork? Hopefully you're working through it, because I am a amen and yes, thank you kind of girl when it comes to this. Hardcover, audio, Kindle, whatever. I actually own all of his stuff in all three formats because I'm kind of geeky like that. One resource that I wanted to give you is clockwork.life. It's a website, so it's not .com, it's clockwork.life. You can actually log in for free and get some of his resources for this. So you're going to see that matrix breakdown. You're going to see a lot of those things in there. And what Mike talks about is building your business. If you went away for 1 month and didn't answer a work email, maybe someone got hurt, there's something crazy, but let's pretend to your staff that you don't have internet access or email. Could you go away for an entire month and come back to a business that is A, not on fire, B, still doing well, and C, doing better than when you left it? Even if you never want to leave your business, a lot of us have, egos that we want to be in our business. But your business should be designed to run like clockwork. So I absolutely 100% wholeheartedly believe in his book. Matthew, I have full faith that you will love this book. So the other things I wanted to show you really quickly is claimwizard.com/show is our podcast show that we have out. And of course, you're here. ClaimWizard.com/webinar. All of our webinars are done live and then slightly edited and put up to YouTube. So any of our old ones are up there for you to see. If you want to sign up for more, you can sign up just like you did for this one, ClaimWizard.com/webinar.